You actually talked about that in next episode.
Let me start that just section.
Yeah.
Just gonna do that. So I Yay, you're here. Welcome to How to Be a Grown-Up with CK and GK. Let's get started. Okay, so last week we talked about how ADHD entrepreneurs are basically business superheroes. We're idea machines, hyper-focused warriors. We're the masters of turning, wait, that's a thing, or hey, that's not fair, into a whole business model. But today we're getting real, because if running a business with ADHD was all sunshine and spontaneous brilliance, we wouldn't be crying about billing and unread emails. So if you missed part one, go listen. It's like the before montage in a makeover movie where we're all shiny and full of hope. But this episode is the part where the music gets dramatic and the heroine realizes, oh crap, I actually have to do the things. So we're talking why just set a calendar alert is a complete lie. The unique pain of your own messed up energy rhythm. And my personal favorite, when your brain treats urgent deadline and mildly interesting Wikipedia page with the exact same level of priority. So grab your emotional support coffee, water bottle, and energy beverage, because they all have a different purpose. Yes, even the coffee and energy beverage. And let's get to it.
So those are our strengths. And it would be very easy to just like focus on those things. But I think it's important that we validate the challenges that we have, because ADHD is considered a disability for a reason. And especially in the workplace, there's a lot about our ADHD that can be disabling. And that doesn't go away when we own our own business. We can manage them more appropriately when we have our own business, but they don't disappear. So we have to acknowledge the weaknesses and make accommodations for them. So I'm going to go through the most common challenges that people with ADHD face, not just as business owners, but like in the workplace, because they're kind of intertwined, and then provide some suggestions for how to make accommodations for those challenges. And some of these came from the Attitude magazine article that I put that will be in the show notes. And others are what I have found, others are things that I do that I have found personally helpful. And as always, remember that when it comes to recommendations, your mileage will vary. Take what works, leave what doesn't.
And we are not doctors or ADHD coaches.
No.
Yeah.
No.
In fact, I need an ADHD coach if you're willing. Hit me up.
Right. Yes.
Great. Okay. I'm excited for these. Let's hear it.
So, first one, distractibility. I mean,
hi.
Obviously.
Hallmark of ADHD.
Obviously. Right.
Great.
Yes. So noise canceling headphones are really great for that. Even if you're working like alone at home, if you pair them with some, ambient music. I like using bilateral nature sounds. So that's when the sound kind of goes from like one ear to the other. And there is quite a bit of clinical evidence that it's a benefit to the brain, though I am not qualified to talk about that at all.
Yeah. If you go to the Attitude magazine, they'll tell you like you can look up best sounds for ADHD like work time, and they'll recommend like brown noise is a common one I've heard of, which we've heard of white noise, but there's brown noise. Green noise is another one that I often will use. But the bilateral nature sounds thing, you recommended that to me, and I find that to be incredibly calming. So when I am like uber stressed, I will put on that playlist that you recommended, which I can also find and link here. It's the one that you sent me. And I've also found this kind of works with music too. There are some songs that I think ADHD people fixate on incredibly intensely. And I think it's something to do with the way it hits one ear and then the other. It's a weird sort of thing, but I find that the songs I love the most are ones that do that to my brain. So
interesting.
Yeah. I think there's something to that.
And the thing is with those bilateral sounds is that you're not going to get them if you just have them playing over a speaker. Like,
right. You have to like, put to in get headphones.
You have to put on headphones. And I, will make all the audiologists out there happy when I say, please watch your volume, protect your ears.
Yes.
This way you're not doing what I have been doing lately. And I'm like, what?
And then answering the question later. Anyway.
Right. Exactly. Okay. If you do have employees, you can, and you have a flexible schedule, you could start your workday before they come in or end it after you leave. So you have like a block of time where, there aren't people there kind of adding to that distraction. I am annoyingly social in a workplace. I'm constantly seeking out talking to people. I know now that's probably because of my ADHD, but that also means that if I had employees, it would probably best for me to maybe start my day a little bit early. So at least I've got a block of time where I know I'm going to get stuff done in case I do have a very distracted day.
Yeah. I have you seen those signs that like people, they're like these images of people who put the sign on the door that says like, please don't talk to me because I will talk your ear off for an hour and I have so much stuff to do that like, yeah, you need to not knock on my door right now. That's how
Yeah, totally. Get out of your office and go someplace like the library. Now, if you go to someplace like a coffee shop or something like that, like make sure you bring your noise canceling headphones, because that can be incredibly distracting. We'll talk about it later with like the boredom piece of it, but being in a place like a coffee shop can be good to keep the motivation for working, but can also be really distracting. Because if you have, like what happened to me the past couple of times I've worked out of the house, is there will be people kind of talking really close to us and their voices carry just enough that I can hear their conversation and then my brain can't turn it off. Like now I'm hearing all about how your fiance's parents' house got struck by lightning. So we're like,
oh man, I'm such a nosy chismosa too that I'm gonna like listen, and I'm gonna be live texting this conversation to probably you, but telling everyone this is what I'm doing right now, and I will not be.
Right.
I have a job too where I spend a big part of my day writing, as you do too, and if someone else is talking, I cannot write and listen to, like, I can't listen to podcasts when I'm working.
No.
I can't even listen to songs that have lyrics in them.
Same.
Because it's too distracting, and I'll either listen to the song or I'll do the work and I'll miss stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a friend who was like, well, you just listen to like the audio behind the song that you like. And I was like, no, because then it's a karaoke session and I'm going to start singing that too. So no, it has to be like nothing that has anything related to someone else's words. So
right. Absolutely. And that's, I think, where the library is really helpful, because they usually have a quiet study area. So you can always go in there. So you do know that people are supposed to be quiet in there. And I think just generally the library tends to be a quiet place. There might be, I think the loudest the library I go to gets is when it's kids' story time. And then it's like adorable children singing Skinnamarink Dinky Doo.
Oh.
And yeah, and it's only for like an hour. But again, that's where the headphones could come in. But the library could be that nice balance between having kind of people around so you're feeling a little bit more motivated to work while limiting not just the distractions of like other people, but like the distractions that are just around you if you work from home.
Yeah.
You know, your dishes in the sink, the laundry, the dog who wants to go outside and then come back in and then go outside and then come back in, the cat who sits in front of your keyboard, you know.
Yeah.
Stuff like
Fair.
that.
All good.
And putting your phone away or putting it on Do Not Disturb. Yes, that is.
Yeah.
It's like it's the most simple one and somehow like sometimes the hardest to do. But I have one focus setting for the Do Not Disturb. It's author, and that is what I use. Yeah, that is what I use when I'm doing like work as an author, because it allows me to go on any of the social media apps that I need if I'm doing marketing stuff, but I don't get the notifications for like anything.
Yeah.
So there's less distraction in that if I'm getting a text, I'm not getting the notification for it, and I'm not picking up the phone. And now that I have the phone in my hand, now I'm gonna get lost
30
on
minutes.
like, TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I have several settings for Do Not Disturb. I have like a general Do Not Disturb where nothing goes off, but I also have one for recording where if something goes wrong, certain people can text me through, like you and Jenny can send me messages through that and I'll receive them because we record together. I have ones where they're just for work and the only notifications I can get are from school, like from my son's school. So only his stuff comes in. So I know nothing else. If it comes through, it's an emergency and that's it. So there are lots of great ways to do this. My favorite thing to do though is just put my phone in the other room. And because I have a computer for work and I have one for personal, and I don't allow any notifications from personal stuff to come through on my work computer because otherwise it becomes a text fest or whatever. So there are lots of ways to manage that. But if you know your phone is a distraction, put it away, put it somewhere else.
Right.
Different room, whatever.
Absolutely. That is a good segue and transition into time management, which is another challenge that us ADHD people have. And the reason why I don't put my phone someplace else is because one of the time management tools I found really helpful is the Forest app. And technically, I think there's like a Chrome extension for it or something, but it sucks. So I use the app, and the Forest app combined with Do Not Disturb does quite a bit to keep me focused. So the Forest app, it's either a countdown or like a stopwatch. So if you want to work for a certain amount of time, like you can set it for that, or you can just track how long you are working. And it grows a little tree or a little bush or some flowers. And you pick like, okay, I'm writing, and so I'm going to grow a little oak tree. And depending on how long you work, you get the oak tree in like a certain phase, or you get multiple of them. And it adds trees to this little forest that, you track. And you get coins and stuff when or points or whatever that you get when you use it. And then what I've been doing is each month I will use those points to buy a new plant for my little forest.
Oh my gosh, you're such a gardener, nature nerd that you get dopamine hits from like fake trees on an app. I love it so much.
It makes me angry that a lot of these plants are not native to my area.
You're annoyed by the app not having native plants.
I know. I'm such a dork.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about an app that has like the trees are like cat tree and there's like a cat face in it. And yet I'm sitting here irritated that
bless you.
I know. I have a problem.
I like that. I also, there's a few other apps like that you can find that are there. Yes, there are Chrome extensions and all those. And Attitude magazine has some great suggestions for what ones you can use. I personally am just, if I see a tree little thing growing, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, so cute. It's like a little Tamagotchi and I need to like pay attention to it. So I use Be Focused, and I actually bought Be Focused Pro so that I wouldn't have to deal with the ads anymore. But it's a Pomodoro timer. If you haven't heard of that, it's exactly what Ariel is talking about. You work for a certain amount of time. It counts down for you. It gives me a little alarm when 25 minutes have gone off. I get a 5-minute break, and I use that 5 minutes to either, put laundry in the washing machine or go make some tea or both, or look at my phone for 5 minutes, and then the timer goes off again. My 5 minutes are up and I'm supposed to get back to work. So something like that is really helpful. And I also find that I can use that timer to make myself sit down and stand up during the day, so that because I work from home at a desk, I get the variation of I sit for an hour and a half, and then I have to stand up for the next 25, 30 minutes or more to, it helps. So good things to consider there. There's all kinds of Palm apps you can take a look at. So Tomato Timer,
absolutely.
like they're all super easy to find.
Yes, definitely. Even with the timers is I will set a timer for like 30, 40 minutes or something. I will work for that, and then I will take a break to do some of my physical therapy exercises. And that gets me like up out of my chair, adds a little bit of energy, and then my physical therapist doesn't yell at me for not doing my exercises. So another thing you can do for time management on like a longer term scale is have someone give you a deadline. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a meaningful deadline. It could be realistic, but also like it doesn't matter kind of at the end. But your brain is like, our ADHD brain is like, oh, I've got a deadline. I've got to do something about it. I did this with my book revisions. Because I'm a self-published author, like I don't have an agent breathing down my neck. I don't have an editor breathing down it's just me. So I asked one of my critique partners who does project management for a living. I was like, give me a deadline, just give me a deadline. And because she was going to beta read the manuscript when it was done. And she was like, I want to read this book. So
yeah,
I had her give me a deadline, and then I finished my revisions 2 weeks early.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. So if I wouldn't have hit the deadline, like nothing would have happened. But my brain was like, no, she's going to be disappointed in you. You have to get this deadline. It doesn't have to necessarily be, somebody that you work with. It could just be like a friend who is invested in whatever project that you're working on.
Yeah, like a body double or an accountability buddy or whatever.
Right. And that's actually the second thing I was going to talk about is body doubling or working in groups. And it's amazing how just having somebody working beside you can be motivating. And, a lot of us who freelance, just like we work by ourselves, like we are sole proprietors that don't have any coworkers, and just kind of having somebody around, even if it's a stranger, like at the coffee shop, is super helpful. And it doesn't have to be in person either. So with Discord, I'm in a few writing Discords, and we use a writing sprint bot. Somebody runs the sprint and they put 30 minutes into it. And then we have 30 minutes to write. And there's 2, 3, 4 of us kind of all working at the same time doing these writing sprints. And these could be people that are all over the country. So we're all writing together, but we're not even in the same room. And that can be really, really helpful for getting these tasks done.
I'm trying to think of the name of it, but I can't right now. There is a actual program where you can sign up to body double with someone.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of it, but that does exist outside of these smaller networks. So if you're a sole proprietor, you literally have no coworkers and you don't have any groups like this that you belong to with someone who can do that, there are ways to do that. And I think you just have to search like ADHD body double. And I think this thing will come right up and you can join with that. And I've heard people talk about how incredibly effective it is for them because all you're doing, the way that I understand it is all you're doing is you're signing on, someone else is on the screen. They don't talk to you, or they might say like, hi, and then you both get to work. And it's just helpful to have someone doing that in front of you.
Yeah. And I know there's people too they do like TikTok lives and Instagram lives and even on like YouTube where the whole point is just body doubling for a project. And so like they'll go live and just like do whatever project they're working on. And you can just sign up. You could just like
join the live. Are you
and
joking?
just join the live. Yeah. Yeah.
If that's all content creators, that's brilliant. If you're an ADHD content creator, like why wouldn't you just I know. That's so brilliant. Oh my goodness.
I've thought about this, like being like, oh, I'm going to write at X time. Like, if you want to write too, join this live. And then I'm like, oh God, but then people are going to see my face while I'm writing. And
why do you think that I have mascara on right now? Because I don't know what I'm going to do if I even publish this video, but that's the reason.
Yeah,
I get it.
I have come a long way with self-esteem, but I have not reached the point where I can have people watch me looking at the screen like this. So
sometimes I have a face for podcasting, so I completely understand what you're talking about.
Totally. Yeah. So body doubling. I love it. Work in groups. Yeah, totally.
So good. Okay.
So my last tip is kind of a two-parter. So either block off certain parts of the day to do specific tasks related to your business based on kind of where you have the most energy and motivation. Some people like to do the creative stuff in the morning and do the boring stuff in the afternoon. Some people switch that. My day-to-day schedule is too unpredictable to do that. I have tried that and it doesn't work for me. So I block off entire days for certain tasks. So I'll do admin and marketing on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. And then I write the other days. And this kind of keeps me from neglecting a project for too long because my brain will kind of latch onto it. Like, I don't know, there's some kind of like book marketing trend happening on Threads. And now I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I have to jump on that. But it's Tuesday. And it's like, no, this will be around for 2 more days. Like I can wait to do this because otherwise I'm going to take that entire day on Tuesday to work on this stupid image or whatever the trend is. And I'm not writing, So you can kind of decide what works for you in that. But if you have, it's basically creating a routine and a structure where you know what you're going to do each part of either the day or the week. And it kind of helps you manage your workflow a little bit better.
Yeah, I do this with certain clients. Like I have a rule that I will only work on this one client that tends to take a lot of my attention after I finish everything else for another client for the day. Or if it's a bigger project for other clients, I'll say, okay, not until after noon will I work on that other client. They get my attention the second half of the day, but other clients get my attention the first half of the day. And then on Fridays when we have a lighter work day, that client, the big attention client gets all of my attention that day, and I use it just for their social content that whole time. So Friday, the only thing I do is that client's social content. And I know that once I'm done with that, I can either be done for the day or I can move on to something else. But that has to be what happens first with that client. And I find that to be very helpful, especially as someone coming from the teaching world where I did have a specific time of day where certain things had to get done, right? I had to teach first, second, fourth, fifth, and then seventh. So I knew those times were taken, but that meant that third period, I was working on writing content for our advisory classes. And then like sixth and eighth period, I was working on planning for the next day. And then anything, once I got those things done, then I could start grading the papers. And that was having that structure in place was very helpful for me. So something like that, if you need to build like a class schedule for yourself, do something like that. That might be really effective for you. You might find it to be something that sounds silly, but there is something very helpful about something so regimented like that for people with ADHD.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The next big challenge is disorganization and memory. We are organized to the point of disorganization bunch.
Right. Hyper organization, thinking that you're going to be able to find things better, and it just doesn't work. We've actually talked about this before, where decluttering your digital life, I'll find that episode and put it in the blog post here and link it, but there was a whole section on why folders for your folders doesn't work. You can't do that. I have found that like if I had a folder just for graphics for a client, then I would have to have folders inside of that for each campaign. So instead of doing it that way, now I've shifted towards everything for the campaign in one folder. And then inside that campaign folder, then there's a space for graphics, because otherwise I can't find anything anymore. Yep. It's too, I overcomplicated it. It was ridiculous.
Absolutely. Yeah. So trying to find systems that are like that, where they kind of simplify everything. And that might require the help of somebody else who can like look at it a little bit more objectively, because I might be like, no, I got to put a folder and a folder and a folder. And somebody else is like, well, why don't you just do this? And like when somebody else says it, it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Other things to do, especially for memory, is to just keep a notebook nearby and write everything down, or use voice notes. Just accept the fact that you will not remember later. Just, you're gonna forget.
Yeah.
Let's just accept it. I now have a stack of Post-its in my car, so that when I get into my car, if I have to remember to say, like, go to the pharmacy to pick something up, I will write down, pick up RX, and I will slap it on my infotainment screen. Yeah. Or I might be driving around and come up with like a great idea for a scene, and I will either voice note it to myself, or I will write it down on that sticky note. Just write it down. Just accept that you're going to forget.
I think
and write it down.
This is hard for me because I will write it down, but then I won't remember where I put it. Or
there's that. Yeah.
I will write it down and then I will close that notebook up. So I would say not only write it down, but put it in a place where you won't be tempted to move it. It always sits right there. It's a running list. You don't put a paper clip over something and keep pages together, because otherwise you won't see them. Something like that. Otherwise you won't see. If it, again, out of sight, out of mind, make it be a place that's obvious. And if you do happen to put it on something like a sticky note and it needs to be then added to your running list of things, take your sticky note with you over to the place where you write everything down and then write the thing down in the other place, then get rid of the sticky note. And don't just stick the sticky note on top of the things, because if there's something underneath the sticky note, you won't see it. So just things like that, where you have to think about your own habits and how
Right.
how you survive stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Follow up with clients via email to ensure that you're on the same page, that you have all the dates and assignments correct. This is kind of something that I've sort of started doing when I freelance to just make sure I understand the assignment that I was given, because a lot of times I might read something and I think I understand it. And then when I turn in the assignment, it's like, this is not what I wanted. So it takes nothing to just email back and say, just so we're on the same page. And if you are I lost my train of thought.
I will say you've done this with me before, where you freelanced for the company that I work for, and I've assigned you a task, and you've sent me back a message that says, just so we're clear, this is what you're asking for. Mm-hmm. And it's forced me, as someone who sometimes assumes people understand what I'm talking about, and I skip steps because it's in my head, but I didn't tell someone. It's forced me to be very clear about what I'm asking for here. It also prevents me from doing the thing where it's like, I kind of know what I want, but I definitely know what I don't want. So, there is that. And I also think there's something to not just doing this, but asking what the priority is. So if you have multiple tasks for a client, saying, which one would you prefer I prioritize, so that I don't, because I'm someone who sees 15 things on the list and I think everything has to be done at the same time. So something that I've done for myself is say to a client, and it's taken me a long time to do this. I'm now 3 years into this job, and I'm only just saying, what would you prefer I work on first? But asking that question, which one would you prefer I prioritize, so that I can give you the deliverable that you're asking for right away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then asking for a deadline if you haven't been given one, or if you've been given like a vague deadline, like if it's like, oh, by the end of the month, it's like, no, give me a day. Like,
right. Even if it's by the end of the month, say May 31st. Otherwise, say, May 28th, whatever it is, give me an actual day, not by the end of the month, because that to me means it doesn't matter to you.
Right.
When you get it.
Right. Exactly. And in doing that, what is wrong with me? My brain. I have ADHD. That's what's wrong with me.
Did you take your meds today? I did not take my medication this morning. So
I did.
I tend to not take it on weekends.
I had a good thought related to that, but now it's gone.
You talked about, so we said follow up with clients via email, I like this one. I see this one on your list. Brain dumps.
Yes. So brain dumps are basically like just what they sound like. It's like all the stuff that's in our head, like whether it has to do with work or not, or just the most random thing. Like, I don't know, like, what color robe does the Pope wear on Tuesdays? I don't know. Like, those could be like the weird questions that like we hyperfixate on. Just take all of those thoughts and just write them down. Like, just write them on a piece of paper. Like, my brain dumps will be a mix of work stuff, a mix of personal stuff, a mix of like, those like weird things that I just like can't stop thinking about. And it's like, once they're on the sheet of paper, it does feel like, okay, now I don't have to try to keep all of these things in my head anymore, because they are here. Like, they live here now. They don't need to live in my head. And from that brain dump, you can start to prioritize the things that, that are important. And then the things that are not, like the color of the Pope's robe on Tuesdays. So
the other thing I want to add to this is sometimes people turn brain dumps into to-do lists. And there's a couple of problems with that I see. One, if an ADHD person writes down literally everything inside their head, it takes up an entire page. Or you write nothing down because you're like, I don't know what's in my head, because we struggle with metacognition, I think. a lot. So when I've done these and I write down tasks that need to get done, I get overwhelmed by it. I mentioned this creator last week in the episode Coaching with Brooke, and I mentioned that she had a fantastic tip for how to tackle that list of overwhelm. And next to the brain dump, I will I'll draw an arrow and I'll write down the single next step that needs to happen in order for me to tackle that task. So for example,
okay,
if I have to write a landing page or I'm writing copy for a client for a specific web page, I might already have a draft. And so I have that on, my draft is there. And then the next step is revise paragraph 1.
Right. Yeah.
It's not make edits. It's optimize title. It's just one single tiny step. Because sometimes even just looking at that the next day and being like, okay, the only thing I have to do right here is optimize the title. And then it might get you on a roll to tackle whatever's next on the list. But just make sure your brain dump doesn't put you in a state of overwhelm. So if you see tasks and you start to get panicky, just maybe consider that hack. And thank you to Coaching with Brooke for that one, because that was so brilliant.
Yeah. That's a good idea. That's a really, really good idea. And the last one for time management disorganization is starting your day by organizing everything, or ending your day by organizing your space, or both. So at least you're getting off on the right foot and you're not like walking into your workspace and it is like an absolute, disaster zone. Just if you have the ability to do it, I used to do this when I worked in an office and I didn't really realize it was probably related to my ADHD, but I would take like the last 45 minutes of the day. And because I was already burnt out doing whatever I was doing. So if I wasn't on like a hard deadline or something, I would take like the last 45 minutes and I would just organize my space. I would do little bits of research. And so when I walked in the next day, I was not overwhelmed by everything that I had to start doing. So kind of like set yourself up for success, whatever really that means for you. Like it might mean that you ease into the day by cleaning up the disaster zone. That might be super helpful, but whatever it is to set yourself up for success, do it.
Yeah. I tend to do this at the end of the day because in the morning it'll distract me. If I try to tidy in the morning, I will spend all of my time doing that. And I'll be like, oh, but now I need to reorganize the entire office.
Right.
Instead of just clearing my space.
Absolutely.
So I tend to do this at the end of the day when I'm a little bit more tired and don't have it in me to become hyperfixated on everything around me in that space. So it helps me there. And, it feels good at the end of the day to cross a few things off your list and then walk into the next day knowing these are the things that need to get done right away. And I planned for myself and I took care of later, Caitlin, or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
So
totally. And the last challenge that we deal with is boredom. Things that are boring, getting bored. Even when we enjoy things, sometimes we get bored. And that is a tricky one. This is where body doubling is really helpful. Just kind of working with others. It makes that boring task more fun. I have had to do boring admin stuff and I'll hop into my writers group and I'll be like, does anybody want to do a writing sprint? This way I can do data entry or something. Like having somebody near you to do that boring thing is really helpful.
Yeah.
Follow your natural energy rhythm over the course of the day. People with ADHD have an internal clock that would be considered wonky by neurotypical people. We might be more energized and motivated later in the day. as opposed to earlier in the day. We might work better in the evening. We might work better overnight.
You think that's deadline related? Like, think about the end of the day and how things are supposed to get done at the end of the day. Like, by the end of the day, I said I would do this. I feel like that's a big part of it for me. I really do.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. Or it could be part of it, like, depending on your job. But I also know that, like, if I have the ability to kind of work whenever I wanted throughout the day, I wouldn't get started working until 11 in the morning. And I would take a break in the mid-afternoon, but then I would work like well into the night. I would work like until 1.
Lately. Wow. I find that I will say to myself, I'm only going to work until, 4:15, and then I'm going to stop. And then it'll be 4:45 and I'm still working. And it's because I have this this internal pressure to get something else crossed off my list or whatever it is. So I wonder if that's part of it for me anyway. But I feel like I'm sure I'm not the only one who has that sort of deadline motivated behavior.
Yeah. And like, if you have the flexibility for your day to kind of adjust when you work or when you do certain tasks, do it. Don't do the boring things necessarily when you're feeling the most low energy, because if you don't have the dopamine to basically do things, even things that you enjoy, you're not going to have the dopamine to do the things that you don't. So
preach.
That is where,
seriously.
Yeah. So that is where you like kind of play with your day. It's okay if you don't get started at 8 a.m. and your workday ends at 6. I mean, maybe that's what you have to do, So that's why I'm saying, like, if you have the flexibility for it, if you don't have the flexibility for it, you got to do what you got to do. But if you have the flexibility to kind of mess with your schedule a little bit, figuring out when you are the most energized and when you are the most depleted will really help with staying away from when you have to do the boring stuff.
It's true. Yeah.
And the last one is change your environment if you can. If you have an office, but you can also work someplace else, do it. That can be really helpful. I have, an office in my guest room. And then there are days where I will go down to the kitchen table because the kitchen gets a lot more sunlight. So there are days where I just need more sun and I will go there. I have a picnic table outside, so I will work outside, go to the coffee shop, the library. Sometimes just changing your environment can add that variety that we need, that we talked about earlier, that ADHD people love variety, and that variety keeps us from getting bored. So,
yeah.
That was a lot.
It was a lot
of stuff.
But I feel like it's super helpful to have all of that in one place. Is there any other tips that you have before we move on for today?
I think the last one would just be to ask for help when you need it. Outsource something when you can. If you're a business owner that can afford to outsource something to a personal assistant or a freelancer, just do it, especially if it's something that you can't stand doing. Give it to somebody else. And, in some respects, that's what we call the ADHD tax, where we end up spending a little bit more money to get things done. But if it helps your mental health, if it helps you have the capacity and the bandwidth to do the things that you really, really enjoy, and the reason why you are a business owner, then it's worth it. So
I agree. And I mean, we've talked about this. I talked about it with Deborah Doliner a few weeks ago about outsourcing tasks for parents. If it means you as the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, need to focus explicitly on the business, that needs to take every bit of your attention, and you need to outsource other tasks like gift wrapping and picking up groceries and things like that. There are services available. I'm going to give a shout out to Tula Life Balanced again. And if you're in one of those cities that Tula operates in, there's a promo code grownup20. You can go and sign up and get 20% off of outsourcing services for moms. So put that out there too. It's not just outsourcing things for your business, but it's also outsourcing things that are taxing at home. So
yeah, absolutely.
Putting that out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Well, we've got all of these resources in the blog post for the episode. Make sure that you check that out, and we will be right back. Okay, y'all. POV. You find a diary exposing forbidden magic, and the hot museum caretaker's life depends on you burning it. Roots in Ink, the debut novel by Ariella Monti, is the fantasy romance for rebels. Use promo code CK and GK to get 20% off your copy at ariellamonti.com. Again, that's all caps CKANDGK for 20% off on ariellamonti.com. Get your copy for 20% off today. All right. So in the spirit of ADHD stuff, we're back, and we're not talking about obsessions. We're talking about hyperfixations. Yes. So do you have any right now that I need to know about? And also be hyperfixated
Tiny puzzles. On? Tiny puzzles. Tiny puzzles. Going back to puzzles. Yeah. Going back to puzzles.
Yes.
To loop it back, to circle back to puzzles.
Oh, no, don't say circle back. Oh, no. So corporate. Oh, no. No circling back.
Let's circle back to tiny puzzles. Yeah, Impulse bought this. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to you'll have to put it in the show notes later, but it's like it was at the place where it was at the mailing place where I like have a PO box and drop off the books that I'm sending out.
Post office?
No, it's like a private business. So it's not the post office.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like a small business, but they're like these little tubes, right? Okay. Like these little plastic tubes with these like little puzzles inside, and the puzzles themselves end up being like 5x7 or 4x6 or whatever. And it was $10, so I impulse bought it. And I like it because it's so little that I can put it on this like little wooden tray and it doesn't take up a whole bunch of space. And it's just been like sitting on the kitchen table, and I just keep like playing with it and try. It's so freaking hard though. Like, but it'll be cute when it's done. It's like a little bookshelf with like little black cats in the bookshelf, and I'm gonna frame it whenever I'm done with it. I'm gonna frame it and put it in my living room.
Nice. So, okay.
Yeah.
Tiny puzzles.
Tiny puzzles.
Mine is I've been doing my own nails again.
Oh.
And because I was getting my Gel X nails done and really loved them, but they were lifting a lot. And it was lifting, if you're not a nail person, it means that like whatever the tips are or the extension on your nail is coming up in the back or lifting around the edges. And it would get caught in my hair and it would make me crazy. So I got tired of going back to the nail place and making them fix it. So I started doing my own again. And there's when you have gel on your nails, you need to kind of file off the top. And the fastest, most efficient way to do that is to use a drill. And I have a little baby nail drill and I love this freaking thing. I'm terrified to use it, but it's so satisfying to watch all the like nail bits come off. I don't know what it is, but like, I don't need to do my nails every week, but I've been like, I want to drill this off. Like it's just so dumb. But it's a thing. And it's so satisfying to watch all the stuff just come off. And you have to go outside because there's so much dust that comes out of it. Or you can get one of those like dust vacuum things. But I was sitting outside on my porch last week and I'm like, and like all this stuff is going everywhere and I was all happy.
Amazing.
It made me so happy. It was so dumb. Anyway, that's my fixation at the moment, is watching the satisfying dust come off my fingernail.
Nice.
Dumb.
I love it.
But true. All right. Did you get anything done this week that you didn't need to body double? You just got it done.
Yes. I finally called my eye doctor to order contacts.
Nice.
Down
well
to
done.
like, yeah.
You need them too, so I don't know what you would.
Right. I know. Well, what made things take a little bit longer was that I was trialing like a new pair, like a new brand of contacts. Usually I would just order them like before I leave, like after my appointment. But because I had to trial a new pair, that I wasn't like there to purchase them. And so they're like, yeah, like once you decide if you like them or not, like just call and we'll put in the order. And, like
just call.
Weeks and weeks.
How rude that said, just call.
I know. Just call.
No,
just
rude.
Yeah. No.
Weeks and weeks went by, I'm sure. And then
Right. And so I'm on like the contacts in my eyes are, I think, the only like full set I have.
Ooh.
So if something happens to the one contact, I don't know if it's my right or left. If something happens to that, I have to wear my glasses, which is not a crisis, but I have some eye conditions that make wearing contacts. I see better with them, so I don't want to wear my glasses if I can help it.
Understood.
But yeah, I finally ordered contacts.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm legitimately happy about that, Bill. Mine was I did something similar. I finally made my follow-up mammogram appointment.
Nice.
Got the order in November to make the appointment.
All right. Yeah.
Made it this week. So
nice.
So
good job.
Because just call is not okay. And I will do it if it's online. Like it's still the same thing. I'm going to delay it, but I'm more likely to do it if I don't have to call. And they have an online option, except they were like, nope, you actually do have to call because you have a specific type of order from your doctor that you have to go get it done. So nightmare fuel, but it got finished. So
yay, good. I'm happy for both you and your boobs.
Thanks. They're going to be happy too. I'm sure after the pancakeification of them is complete.
Yes.
So that's all that we have for today. Thank you. You did a great job. So thank you for all of that helpful information. I'm going to once more make a request that you vote for me. If you're listening to this in May of 2025, I still need votes. Voting goes until the end of the month. So May 31st is your last day to vote for me for the Women Podcasters Awards in the education podcast category. The link to my page is in the show notes. You just scroll down and click vote. And you're not signing up for anything. You're just putting in your email for verification purposes. And then all you have to do is scroll down to where I'm at and choose me. That's it. Takes a minute and a half. Very quick. So
super simple.
That's my call to you. I really need your help. I really need your votes. Please help me and validate me. I need validation. As Jenny would say, make good choices and vote for me. And now I'm going to do the millennial. Bye.
Bye.
Hey friends, thanks for listening to the CK and GK podcast. Find us at CK and GK podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or anywhere else that you pod. See you next time.